Good morning, everyone. Are you ready? All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Janet Garrison. I'll be hosting your webinar today. I have Michael Burnett here with us in case you have additional questions I can answer. And Amber's going to check all the messages and all the questions that you might have. And then we'll try and answer them as best as we can. And if we can't, we'll go ahead and get those answers out to you. Once the webinar is finished, I will be sending all of these documentations to you. There's been a couple of minor changes, like the name of the manual. We had a capital security plan work orders, but we took that capital off because this is not capital funding. So everybody that came to the first webinar, those people will get all of these documents over again. So we want to make sure that everybody is has all the information that they need. All of this will also be recorded and will be uploaded to our website under the AIM tab. So that way, if you guys want, you have people that can't make it, then they'll always have access to this webinar. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first time I went over the history of security, and I'm going to do that again because we have so many new district personnel. It's good if they're informed of the history of security. So in 2014, the Wyoming legislature directed the School Facilities Commission to study school safety and security standards. During the same session, the legislature also appropriated $9 million for security projects approved by the SFC. Following this direction, the School Facilities Department commissioned MOA Architecture and RETA Security Incorporated to review nationally recommended best practices for enhancing school security and establish a matrix of standards and guidelines based upon that review. The SFC received the report in October 2014 and passed a motion acknowledging and approving MOA's report at its October 23rd, 2014 meeting. The following year, the legislature added a further condition upon the expenditure of the $9 million security appropriation, requiring that the SFC conduct a comprehensive statewide assessment of all school safety and security needs and produce a prioritized list of school safety and security remedies. In mid-2015, Facility Engineering, the company hired to perform the assessment, produced its completed security assessment of Wyoming's public schools. In 2016, the legislature also approved the spending of up to 10% of the amount distributed under the Major Maintenance Program for Security Projects. During July 2018 the commission meeting, the commission passed a motion to fund security projects in the amount of $4,950,000. The motion also stipulated that the school state construction department shall request legislative consideration to allow the funding to be used on priorities 1 through 20. As the district determines to be the highest security needs for building for the district needs to submit proposed projects for approval and report expenditures for tracking purposes. In the 2019-2020 supplemental budget, the legislature appropriated the $4,950,000. And the policy, I'm not going to go over all of it. I'll send it to you, but I will go over the responsibilities. Funds appropriated and reappropriated in the bill shall only be expended on projects approved by the School Facilities Commission. The School Facilities Commission is required to only approve security projects pursuant to a SFC established process that ensures the funds distributed maximize improvements to student and staff safety. The SFC is also required to consult with school districts to facilitate, to the extent efficient and practicable, consolidated procurement of school safety and security projects among school districts. Therefore, the SFC establishes this cooperative process between the SFC, State Construction Department, and school districts as follows. School districts shall act in an efficient and expeditious manner while planning, designing, procuring, and implementing school safety and security projects. This step should include, to the extent efficient and practical, active efforts to partner with other districts. To maximize improvements to schools, student and staff safety, school districts are encouraged to plan projects and apply appropriations to implement priorities in rank order, 1 through 20, with 1 representing the highest priority as shown on the cost estimates from the presentation Wyoming School Security Fund Deployment, dated August 4th and 5th of 2015. Only items from this list are eligible for funding. Therefore, any district implementing a lower priority item over a higher priority item for its particular district or individual building shall provide written detailed explanation from the superintendent or superintendent's designee indicating why the district is doing so. The SFC requests the State Construction Department establish process to request information from school districts to confirm project scope, budget, and adherence to the rank order list. Establish processes for keeping a record of school district procurement procedures and expenditures. Establish a process to issue director authorization letters to encumber funds to support school district procurement and contracting, and approve expenditures in a manner consistent with State Construction Department procedures. And then I added the statute as well, so you can read that if you need to. The next thing we're going to go over is the helpful hints, and then we'll do a work order. There's some changes to the work order for the security, through the security manual only. The new manual is used only for capital security projects. All major maintenance work orders for security 10% will use the planned work order manual you used before. So you'll have 2 work order manuals, one for security and one for your other work orders, all your other work orders. All educational facilities are eligible. However, only priorities from the list on the last page of the manual are eligible. And I've also made a spreadsheet for you that puts them in order, so it's a little bit easier to read, and I'll send that to you for you as well. Therefore, any district implementing a lower priority item over a higher priority item for its particular district or an individual building shall provide a written explanation from the superintendent or superintendent's designee indicating why the district is doing so. A work order will need to be entered for each building. You can use the copy feature, but you will need to remember to change the description, site, and other parts of it if need be. And I'll show you how to do that as well. When filling out your planned work order, you must have the budget amount filled out and the supporting documentation attached in related documents. If the supporting documents must have a scope and a cost. If you have a schedule, you can include it. A commission contract is not required. If it is not if your documents are not uploaded into the related documents, your work orders will not be approved. And all funds that have not been dealt were reverted, and SFD took the 20 elements and subtracted what districts already spent and allocated the money to all the districts based on their deficiency needs. Use the 2015 appropriations first. For example, if you have a project that's going to cost $10,000 and you only have $5,000 left on that item from 2015, then you'll use the other $5,000 from the 2019 budget. All educational facilities are eligible that have identified with a deficiency. Your document submittals must be separated by building. So if you have received a bid for all of your buildings, it will need to be separated. There is not a budget for contingencies, so you need to stay within your budget. Use the security information report located under report listings in AIM. This will give you your building and deficiencies. And if you're showing there's a deficiency of 0, then you can't spend money on it. The 10% major maintenance security fund is guaranteed through fiscal year 2020. When you get your major maintenance payment, that will be part of your payment. The 10% will end at the end of 2020 unless legislation budgets it through 2021 and 2022. Do you have any questions about any of the helpful hints? Okay, we're going to go and log into AIM, and we're going to do the work order now. Can't be just a moment. It doesn't want to let me log into our test database. There we go. Okay, the first thing we're going to go do is go to project management. It's just like your other work orders. And we're going to click on the paper icon. That's going to open up a new work order. You're going to put in a description. So we're going to put exterior doors.
Exterior door locks.
You want locks? Okay. And then you're going to click on your region. We're just going to use Albany 1 as our example. And we're going to click on, since administration is included as well. And you're going to put the version is 2019. Now is July 1st. Your version is going to change to 2020 because we'll start our new fiscal year. And then you're going to put the, I'm going to go ahead and put 2020. So a lot of you might not even start until July 1st. The planned fiscal year, 2020. Oh, that's not going to let me do that because JJ hasn't updated it yet. And your budget has to be in here. If you don't put the budget in, the work order will not be approved. So make sure you fill that out. And your type is facility plan every time for security, and facility plan security every time. And as you know, on your other work orders, the next step is always to go to projects, but JJ updated the security features for the security manual only, and you don't have to do that anymore. So the next thing you'd want to do is either add your related documents, which you can do that. I have it in the manual at the end, and I'll show you how to do that. And the next thing that you need to add is your phase. And you're going to enter the shop, which is district. And the funding method for security is always custom. And then you're going to click your work code, and all of the top 20 are in here, and you just need to know which number they are, and we'll get that sent out to you. But right now we're doing door locks. That's the first one, and that's all you need to do. That pretty much completes it, unless you want to add, let's say you're doing door locks and then you're going to do classroom door locks as well, then you're going to add a phase. And you're going to add that inside door locks as well. And then you're going to click done. And then you're going to click, oh, I forgot to add my shop district. Now it's done. And as you can see at the bottom, you're going to have two phases. Well, this one should have been the classroom door locks. I picked the wrong one, but you get the gist. There's two phases that you're going to add if that's what you're planning on doing. And then once you're done with that, you hit save. And you have to be in the planned work order part of the work order to add your related documents. If you add it in the phase, the project manager is not going to find the documentation. So you need to click on related documents and click edit. And you're going to add. And you're going to choose the file that you want to upload. And you're going to click next. And the type is general correspondence. And click next. And we don't use permissions. And then all you have to do is click save. So you can either add that there or at the end or at the beginning, as long as you're on the work order, the planned work order main page. Now, if you want to, let's say you're doing all of your buildings, you're doing the exterior door locks for all of your buildings. A time saver that you can do is once you've done your first planned work order, you can click on the copy feature. Once you click on that copy feature, that's going to give you a new planned work order, but it's going to have everything identical to what you just did. So what you'd need to do is change whatever you need to change. Let's say that you're going to do a different building. So this is the administration building. So you're going to click on the site and You're going to have to clear those out. And then you can go, let's say you're going to do Vital Elementary School. And you're going to add that. You're going to do door locks for that as well as your administration. And then you can go in and change whatever you need. If you're doing something else besides the exterior door locks, you can change the phases on these as well. So, and then you'll add your related documents. You're going to make sure if your budget's the same, you can leave that or change it if you need to. Those are, you'll need to really look at it and make sure that you're not missing anything or duplicating something that you didn't intend to. But it is a nice feature if you're going to do all of your buildings and you're doing exterior door locks on all of those buildings, then all you really need to do is change your site and your property, and if your related documents are different. So once you're done, you click save, and that work order is done. And that is pretty much all there is to the, oh, I wanted to show you one other thing on here. Okay. We have a question. We're going to go ahead and answer that question real quick.
The person is signed in as Janet Garrison, and I know that's not her. The question is, I did not catch what document needs to be uploaded.
Oh, your documents that need to be uploaded. You will need to have a scope and a cost. And if you have a purchase order, you can upload that, and it would need to have, I had a note where they were going to accept some, the purchase order and proposal, that's acceptable. And a scope and cost is also acceptable. And if you have a schedule, you can include that as well. Does that answer your question? Okay. One of the other things I want to show you as well, under our report listing, there is, and it may not be in, oh, JJ's got it in this part. I might have to log into the real database in just a moment and do that. Okay, at the report listing, it should be at the top. It says 20 security info report. And you can click on that. This is going to help you when you go to work on your security projects. You click on your district. You click on the buildings and all elements, or if you just want to click on a single building, you can do that as well. And all your guidelines and all percentage. And this report's going to come up, and you're going to see where there's 0 deficiency. So you can't do anything that has a 0 deficiency. But this can help you, and if you have additional questions, the PMs can help you with that as well. Michael, did you have something?
0 or 5. mean, 0 or a 5.
Oh, yeah, if it's a element score of 0 or an element score of 5, then you can't do security projects on it. So you're looking for a 1 through 4.
Ready?
Okay, yeah. Do you have a question?
So this question is still pertaining to the first question. It says, sort of, is there only a scope or cost estimate that needed? And is the PO required before the work is funded?
Yes. The purchase order is required before it's funded. I know that sometimes it takes a little bit of time before you can add, before you get your estimates, but a work order cannot be done if you do not have the purchase order and the purchase order and the proposal, or the scope and the cost and the schedule if you have that. You can probably do the work order ahead of time if you're doing a lot of them, but that could kind of muddy up the waters, and the PMs really would rather you had all of your documentation and costs before you did your work order.
Okay, the next question again. I used a contractor or construction manager and for the work in the district. Can I submit a change order to contractor for funding?
Yeah, and then it has to get to Dow.
And this is Doug in Natrona speaking.
Yeah, there can be change orders, but that change order will need a Dow to increase the contract amount.
Well, if it's been dowed already,
Is there a change order?
once
Adding to it?
it's been dowed, then it can have a change order, but you've got to have a dowel in place first.
Yeah, you have to have a contract in place.
Yeah.
Then if there's,
Speak up.
it can work both ways. There can be a deductive change order, and there can be credit back to the owner, and that would be a deductive change order, reducing the contract value. Or if there's a change order that's a positive value, then that will require another Dow.
Doug is saying, I cannot get there from here.
Well, you have an original contract. Anytime you change the terms of the original contract in terms of money, that will have to have a Dow to go with it, which is unlike major maintenance. Major maintenance, you just put in an estimate and it doesn't really matter to us whether you go over or under that estimate. This is different. Here we have a Dow. If there is a change order that increases the value, then we would have to do a Dow to increase that amount.
Okay. So I do have also Alyssa from Campbell. With doing a PO before the work order is approved, that is committing the district to work before approval. Are these guaranteed approvals?
I'm reading it, just a sec. You want to read that on Papa John?
All right, the question again is, with doing a PO before the work order is approved, that is committing the district to work before approval. Are these guaranteed approvals?
Well, you can use those as, you have your choice. You can use a scope and a cost, or you can do the purchase order. And if you're doing a purchase order and you sign something for somebody to do the work, then that's your responsibility with them to whether you move forward with it or not.
Okay. So we do have a question again from Doug. What is the difference between a purchase order and a change order?
Well, a change order is something that's changed after you've contracted with somebody and you've had a DAL. A purchase order is you might have a cost and a scope, and then you agree to have a, let's say you're ordering a bunch of door locks, and you get the quote, and then you get your purchase order. And once you commit to do that purchase with the vendor, then that's that's on the district side. So it's, however you guys have it set up with your vendors.
So I'm gonna, please bear with me, guys. I'm trying to communicate everybody here. So we'll stay with Doug's comments because I've got them intermingled with some other questions, and then we'll come back and hit the other questions too from the other districts out there. But Doug's follow-up question to this is, hold on. I have to have approval funding before I can issue a purchase order, right? Is that correct?
That's how the district works.
If that's how the district works, then, I mean, you can put your work order in and have your documentation in. On our end, once you do enter all of your information and you're ready to roll, that's, you put the work order in, you're ready to go on our end. And we immediately, what happens is once the work order is completed and approved by the project manager, then when he approves it, it's going to go to Raj, and he's going to set up the budgets and the project number, and then it'll go back to the PM for a final approval, and then he creates the DAL and based on your work order. So if it's not completed, then he can't do the DAL. So you have to make sure that that's done. But on the district's end, that's however your procurement processes are.
Follow-up question with Doug, and you may have answered this already, but I thought you said I had to have a purchase order to approve the work order. I think you just said I could use a scope and a cost to have a work order approved.
That's true.
You can have either or.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to Kim Nelson. You have a question, and it is agreed. We do not usually enter a PO until we have an invoice in hand.
Well, when we've done purchasing on our end, we don't usually get an invoice until after we get a purchase order. So, so the district moves in a little bit different way than how the state does their ordering, I guess. when I used to do the ordering, I always got the purchase order first. And then once everything was ordered, then I got the invoice to pay for it, which sometimes came pretty close. Other times I didn't get the invoice until after everything was delivered. And I know the district does move a little bit different.
Okay. Back to Doug, I'm trying to keep the same thing. And Judy Smith, I'm going to come to your 3 questions here just as soon as we wrap up Doug's questions to try to stay with the group of questions and on the same path. And why do you need to upload a separate scope and estimated cost when the same information is already included in the work order?
Well, because if you're doing multiple work orders, there has to be documentation for each one. If your work order is, let's say you did 5 of them, then you uploaded the documentation to the first work order, but you didn't for 2, 3, 4, and 5, then the PM, he may be having hundreds of these coming through and doesn't remember that, you know, there was documentation in number 1 and there isn't in 2, 3, 4, and 5, and he's going to reject it. So if you have a work order, it has to have the documentation in it, and it has to have the budget information in it.
Judy Smith, Laramie 1, I'm going to go ahead and ask your 3 questions here one at a time for us to answer, and we'll address those and then get back to another question. The process should be a work order entered first, a DAL issued, then the district creates a purchase order on their system. The next comment from Judy is a purchase order should not predate the date of the DAL. And then the third comment from Judy is Laramie 1 does not enter a purchase order until they have a DAL. Invoicing cannot predate the DAL either.
Good points.
Well, I think that's why they have the scope and the cost and schedule as your second option. The purchase order, we don't have control over that. This is something that we can talk to the staff about and see what their ideas are. I know that we've all discussed this. This is what we are starting with. It doesn't mean that we won't make some changes to fit the district and to make everything run smoothly. We'll get with Paul and check on what his suggestions are, but they did give you the option of the scope and cost and or the purchase order, or you know, so we're hoping that will help you.
Okay. Kim Nelson from Laramie 2 just stated she agrees with Judy. Also, just following with, I believe it's still Doug. Doug, you have a couple more comments here. I'm going to go ahead and list these off. I am not following this at all. Each work order contains a description of the work order and the cost estimate for each project. Each work order is project specific. Each work order contains a cost estimate and a scope of specific work. There is no additional information to be gained by uploading separate documents. It will be only duplicate the work already described and the estimate in the work order. The cost, oh, go ahead. That's the 3 comments from
Well, the
Doug.
work orders are based on a singular building. So if you're doing a work order on, let's say, your administration building, then you can do your phases and add whatever priorities that you need to for that single building. So that work order is for that building only. But let's say that you're going to do your entire district, then you have to have a single work order for each and every building. That's what the difference is. They're based on the building that you're going to do the security work on.
Okay. Judy, you've raised your hand. Unfortunately, you don't have a live mic that I can turn on. So I'm going to go ahead and read your question again. The cost estimate or the quote can contain a scope of work, schedule, and the cost of work all on the same document that can be attached as related documents in AIM. Doug says, I'm sorry, this makes no sense to me at all. And I hope that, Doug, you know, a lot of these cases, you should probably be working with your project manager.
Yeah, we can follow up.
And
Yeah.
we can follow up with you. And in each district, you know, you're going to have those things that you'll want to come through. So, all right.
So I'm going to go back for now. We're kind of going in a circle. So we're going to follow up on those questions, and we'll send out a mass email and let everybody know what the answers are and try and straighten your confusion out. So hopefully that will help you guys. I am going to go back to our document. And we'll send that with you, but we will follow up. So we don't want anybody to have any heartaches or confusion over any of this. Amber says there's another question.
Joe Froselli, I apologize if I just did your name incorrectly. You did have your hand up earlier. Would you raise your hand if you would like to still ask a question or still have a question to be asked? Okay. I just saw it went up a little earlier, so I wanted to make sure we gave you the opportunity to say something if you did.
Now, I did put your security work codes in a priority order 1 through 20, so they're easier to review when you do work on your work orders, and I'll send that out to you. And then the remaining funds for each district has been completed, and JJ sent that to me. And this document will also be sent out to all the districts. So you'll have everything that you need to be able to process your work orders. Is there any other questions that anybody has? Just a moment. Amber's checking on any other additional questions that are out there. Any others, Amber? Okay. Well, this concludes the webinar. We will follow up on the scope and cost and the purchase order and proposal issue that came up in this webinar, and we'll get back with everybody as soon as we can. If you have any additional questions, feel free to email me or your project manager, and we'll get these questions answered as soon as possible. If we get more questions coming in, we'll make sure that we answer those questions, but we'll include everybody in it, so nobody misses any additional information. So for now, we're going to go ahead and conclude the webinar, and we will be speaking soon. Thank you so much for attending.